What does a trillions of dollars looks like? I mean, seriously, we always hear like millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and sometimes $100. And often it starts to lose their meaning. But $1 trillion, that's something even my mind cannot imagine. $1 trillion. It is so much money, even a human being brain can never comprehend fully. It's not just another money adding up. It's such amount of money that never and ever human being in recorded history ever reached. Until today. Because this week we are experiencing or we are talking about something that's so unreal to be true. The first rise of a trillionaire in the whole world. In the center of this story, there is a man whose journey began here at this continent. Welcome to Billionaires.Africa. Today we're breaking down the most and the biggest financial event existed in 2026. The SpaceX IPO. And why does this matter? And how could it officially make Elon Musk the first in the world trillionaire? And now, I know you're very excited as me. Let's get into it. Before we even talk about the trillionaire dollars, let's talk about the man. Most people know him as Elon Musk, the CEO of Tesla, the owner of X, or the entrepreneur behind SpaceX. But for our audience, there is an important detail that often gets overlooked. Elon Musk was born in Pretoria, South Africa. Long before the private jets, the rockets, and the headlines, and he was just a small kid growing on this continent. At age of 17, he left South Africa for Canada before eventually making his way to the United States. And what happened next is one of the most extraordinary wealth creation stories in modern history. Over the years, Musk helped build the scale and multiple companies that transformed entirely into industries. From digital payment and electrical vehicles to artificial intelligence and space exploration. And today, according to Bloomberg Billionaires Index, his net worth is around or estimated at approximately $722 billion. And that already makes him the richest person in modern history. But here is what's happening in this week. This one could take him into entirely new territory. We need to understand what is SpaceX. Most people think of it as a SpaceX, as a rocket company. And technically that's true. But calling SpaceX a rocket company is like calling Amazon an online store. It's accurate, but it doesn't tell the whole story. When Elon Musk founded a SpaceX in 2002, the goal sounded almost impossible. He wanted to make a humanity a multiplanetary species. In simple terms, he wanted people to eventually live on Mars. To accomplish that, he had to solve one major problem. Space travel was incredibly expensive. For decades, rockets were only used once and discarded. Like, take it as this. Imagine buying a brand new airplane for every flight and then throwing it away after landing. That's essentially how the space industry worked. So SpaceX changed that. The company developed a reusable rocket capable of landing themselves and flying again. And that innovation dramatically reduced launch costs, and transformed the economics of space travel. And today, SpaceX is a preferred launch provider of NASA, the United States Department of Defense, and hundreds of commercial customers around the world. If an important satellite needs to reach orbit, there is a good chance SpaceX is handling the mission. But the rockets aren't actually the biggest part of the story anymore. The biggest story is Starlink, and this is where things get very interesting. Starlink is a SpaceX satellite internet network. Instead of relying on traditional telecommunication infrastructures, Starlink uses 1,000 of satellites orbiting Earth to provide internet access directly to the users. Think about what this means. You can be in a remote village in Democratic Republic of Congo. You can also be in a farming community in Kenya, a fishing village off the coast of Senegal, or a rural area where there is no traditional infrastructure. If you have Starlink dish, you can access high-speed internet, and people are so excited and huge number are signing up for this. Starlink now serves more than 10 million subscribers across more than 130 countries, including growing markets across Africa. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, Starlink generated approximately $3.26 billion in revenue. And that's not a side business, that's a global communication powerhouse. And it's one of the main reasons SpaceX is worth so much money. Now let's talk about the event that could change everything, the IPO. Those unfamiliar with an IPO, its initially public offering, is when a private company begins trading shares on a public stock exchange. It's the moment when ordinary investors can finally buy ownership in company that was previously available for only private investors. So SpaceX filed its prospectus with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission on May 20th, and the investors' roadshow began on June 4th. Pricing is expected around June 11, and on June 12, SpaceX is expected to begin traditional. On June 2nd, SpaceX is expected to begin trading on Nasdaq under the ticker symbol SPCX. And this isn't just another IPO. This is a potentially the largest IPO in the history. To understand how big this is, consider the current record holder, Saudi Aramco, raised approximately $29.4 billion during its historic public offering in 2019. And now SpaceX is targeting to rise up to $80 billion, nearly 3 times larger in a single transaction. And that alone would make financial history. But there is another number investors are watching closely: the valuation. SpaceX is now targeting the valuation of at least $1.8 trillion. That's despite reporting a $4.28 billion loss during the first quarter of 2026, a figure largely attributed to costs associated with its merger with xAI, Elon Musk's artificial intelligence company. The core businesses, rocket launches, and Starlink remain profitable. At $1.8 trillion valuation, SpaceX would instantly become one of the most valuable company on Earth, more valuable than almost every company listed on Nasdaq, except giants such as Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia. And that's where Elon Musk's $1 trillion story begins. Musk controls approximately 85% of SpaceX voting power and owns a 42% economic stakes in the company. And that includes roughly 5.1 billion shares and an additional 350 million share options. At the projected valuation, his SpaceX holdings alone could be worth somewhere between $750 billion and $800 billion. And now, add on Tesla. His Tesla stakes is estimated at approximately of $290 billion. And now combined, those holdings places Musk comfortably above the $1 trillion mark. In fact, some analysts argue that based on private market valuation, he might have already crossed that on paper. The IPO simply makes it public and official and visible and impossible to ignore. But there is something I find very fascinating. Musk has agreed to a 366-day lock-up period. That means he cannot sell a single SpaceX share for one more than a year after the company goes public. And think about that. If your holdings were worth hundreds of billions of dollars, most people would want to immediately access some of that money. This move suggests that he believes SpaceX could be worth far more in the future than it is today. And of course, Musk isn't the only person whose life has changed because this IPO. Several early employees and investors are about to become significantly wealthier. Well, let's not go too far. Starting with Wayne Shortwell, the president of SpaceX and one of the company's earliest leaders, could see her stakes reach approximately $2 billion. Second, Chief Financial Officer Brett Johnson could see his holdings grow to around $1.4 billion. Antonio Gracias, the SpaceX board member and a founder of Valor Equity Partners, could see his stakes climb to roughly $11.5 billion. And not forgetting Luke Nusek, the PayPal co-founder and one of the most SpaceX earliest outside investor, could see his holdings reach approximately $5.3 billion. And then there is an institution investors. There is a D1 capital partner, for example, invested around $600 million and is now looking at paper gains estimated at roughly $9 billion. And those are life-changing numbers. And now let's bring this story home. Because in Billionaires.Africa, we don't talk about global wealth. We talk about what it means on Africa. And this is why there is an important lesson in this whole story. Elon Musk was born in Africa. No matter where his career unfolded, his story began in Pretoria. If he officially becomes the world's first trillionaire, that milestone will belong to someone who started life on this continent. Second, Starlink is actively transforming connectivity across Africa. Starlink is helping bring internet access to communities that previously had limited or unreliable connections. And as SpaceX grows, its influence on Africa's digital future grows with it. And third, SpaceX is reserving up to 30% of its IPO shares for retail investors. And that means African investors will access to US market may have opportunity to own one or a part of the most important companies ever created. So many of us, this could never be a story we are just watching. It could be a story that we are participating in. Now let me leave you with this. A young boy from Pretoria is on the verge of becoming the first world's trillionaire. And that company most people has dismissed or overlooked is becoming the most powerful business in the world. And the company that seemed once as a science fiction just a generations ago now is creating the wealth that never appeared on human scale or in human history. So whether you admire Elon Musk or not, now he's becoming very impossible to ignore. So where does this story leave us? So this could be a reminder that extraordinary ideas, once combined with relentless executions, could reshape industries, rewrite history, and provide solutions that once seemed unimaginable. And this is why this story matters, not because of the money, but because what money presents, the vision, the risk, the innovation, and the power of thinking bigger than anyone else. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure you subscribe on Billionaires.Africa, and don't forget to leave your comment about this Elon Musk and him becoming the first trillionaire on Earth. And don't forget to share on someone who likes business, technology, and innovation of Africa. I'll see you in the next one.